Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday market tanking special, where we took a look at what exactly is going on with the market. So first of all, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. I know this probably isn't the greatest day for your portfolio. We're going to take a look at what is happening behind the scenes, why this is happening. And what we really need to do is take a look at how the timing right now coincides with what happened in 2021, right before we hit a massive bear market. What are the similarities and what, in my opinion, are the pretty big differences? So let's start off with just what the heck is going on with the market. Now, as you know, because I'm sure you've checked your portfolio about 50 times so far today, which you should not do, but it is what it is. We've actually gone below 100K for Bitcoin, normal. And these are the things that we have going on right here. So right now we're at, let me refresh this to see where we're at, 101,000. Yeah, look at that, 101,390. Over the last 7 days, we've done nothing but pretty much decrease. Man, remember this price, 113K, October 29th? Those are good days. Not anymore. And we're actually having a little bit of a dump-a-thon. Bitcoin's down, Tether, well, Tether's Tether. Ethereum, wow, 8.6%, up 5% for the hour. That's interesting. XRP, up. But over 24 hours, 7 days and 30 days, everything's massively in the red. So we have to take a look at what happened. Well, first of all, yesterday we talked about liquidations. And we talked about just how amazing it was. We had like 1.6 billion liquidations. And we talked and said, that's a pretty big amount of liquidations. Today, in 24 hours, we've got a 2.2 billion in liquidations, which would make sense because a lot of people, for some reason, were going quite long. And they were leveraged up to the hilt. And because of that, now, of course, they are not in the game. And of course, if we scroll down, we can see that yesterday, as I was talking about 1.16 billion. Today it is double that as we've gone through. 2 billion, 24 hours. But if we zoom out a little bit, we can see that this really wasn't a big deal. If we take a look at October 10th, 9th and 10th, as everything was liquidated to the tune of, it says here 16 points. Well, actually, total was roughly 20 billion, but I think it was way more than that. So what else did we talk about yesterday? Well, we talked about how Wintermute, which is the market maker for Binance, and there was rumors swirling that they were going to sue Binance for what happened as they lost hundreds of millions of dollars. And just today, Wishful Cynic, who is the head or the CEO of Wintermute, came out and said, literally nothing changed. Literally nothing changed since this tweet, and we never had plans to sue Binance, nor see any reason to do it in the future, which I find quite interesting because, first of all, in this article from Yahoo Finance on October 21st, it explicitly talks about, in a recent podcast that I'm going to give away, the CEO of Wintermute said they are already evaluating their legal options and would sue Binance due to the malfunction of their auto deleveraging systems. The voice of their ADOs were executed at completely ridiculous prices. Last resort, and so on and so forth. If you would like to listen to that podcast, I linked it in the description. So I'm not so sure what is being said here. They never had plans, even though they talked about it. That's neither here nor there. It looks like they've come to a resolution. And that resolution looks like they are potentially working today together with Binance as people are getting liquidated like crazy. Now, this was a post from Merlin the Trader. And before we start with this, there are many reasons why a market can go down. There are macro reasons. There are traders in the background. There is liquidity issues. There is just the fear and greed index and the sentiment being so low. There is also talk of geopolitical issues that are going on. It is a very fragile system that we have to go up, but not very fragile to go down. Very simple to actually have that happen. However, if we're taking a look at just some of the reasons, this could be one of them. And we're going to get into all the other stuff as how this relates to 2021 and why the bull market stopped and collapsed, macro, leverage unwindings, and institutions. But let's get to this piece. So this is why Merlin states they're shaking out retail. Binance pushes Ethereum down. Wintermute absorbs the liquidity off exchange. This isn't selling, it's engine liquidity. The goal is simple, make retail sell the bottom, brutal, efficient, and so it says here, intentional. Now, before I go on, nothing can be proven. There is nothing out there that we can say that this is 100% definitively actually happening. However, I like to do a little research, and I like to use this thing called ChatGPT. Works out great. And when I did it, I said, hey, Chat, or Mabel, as it's called when you're doing just a discussion back and forth verbally. I put this picture and I said, what is this? Can you lay this out in layman's terms and so I can explain it to people quite simply? They said, absolutely, this is what's going on. And it's long. It's really long. And I'm not going to subject you to everything. I just made some notes, and here's what it is. And the first part was, because I'm always leery about posts, I'm like, come on, manipulation, really? And what ChatGPT says, look, what it realistically could be, and initially it says it's not manipulation. Wintermute constantly moves funds between exchanges to provide liquidity. Great, so they're just moving it around. Number two, exchanges and market makers often settle trades off-chain, or they have to rebalance their hot wallets several times a day. So I'm like, okay, that could be it. Large firms like Wintermute regularly rotate wallet addresses for security reasons. And we just saw a couple of different DEXs get hacked, so that makes sense to me. They could have OTC deals, and data aggregators like Arkham or Nansen, which they pull the information from, can mislabel wallet activity. So it states the engineered shakeout could happen, but most likely it's routine liquidity operations. Unless we see some evidence, this is not what the post says it is. So then I asked it a simple question. I'd like you to take a look at this price action of Ethereum and tell me this lines up with what the post is saying. And it pretty much said, okay, we could see a little bit more non-variance over there. And I linked this whole discussion in the description so you can read the whole thing. But we've only got 20, 30 minutes. Let's just go through it. And I said this, over 4 hours, roughly $782 million have been liquidated, $720 million long and $559 million shorts. So take this price action, and it is just Ethereum we were looking at, and I gave it the Ethereum price action. We took a look at the longs and shorts, and it says, perfect. That's exactly the kind of data that's going to tell us what happened. What this implies, that's a classic shakeout signature. Before the drop, the market was heavily longed because everybody's bullish. During the drop, a cascade of long liquidations hit, $720 million in forced selling. After the drop, big players and market makers like Wintermute can absorb ETH at a discount directly from exchanges or OTC, exactly as the post described. Binance pushes ETH down. Again, this is just what it's telling me. It's not definitive, but it is not looking like 100% the other way. Why this looks engineered? You'd expect a mix of long and short liquidations, 60-40, 70-30, but 90% one-sided means that something new on the market was over leveraged on longs and triggered intentionally. So here's the sequence. Wintermute Binance market makers notice huge long open interest. They dump spot or future ETH to push price below liquidation thresholds. Liquidations cascade, which we see all the time, forcing 700 million plus, actually it was 2 billion of auto sales. Price plunges at 3.2, and that's just Ethereum. They absorb the ETH, price stabilizes, which it kind of has. This doesn't prove Wintermute or Binance planned it. It just shows that someone triggered and profited from the over-leveraged setup. Even if it wasn't coordinated, it's still a controlled deleveraging event. Professionals call it a liquidity flush or a stop run. And the interpretation finally is this. Funding rates are positive, longs were dormant. Outflows from exchanges are strong, which means potential accumulation off exchange. Huge long liquidations occurred. It strongly suggests a scenario consistent with someone triggered a long liquidation cascade and is accumulating. So yes, the piece fits perfectly. But we don't have the exact timestamp, and it's not definitive. So I just have to ask this. So the question is, well, what's happening right now? Is this going to start the bear market of 2025? And again, you can read the ChatGPT, what it says, but it got kind of boring. What I want to do is just take you back to August 30th. I did a video. It's called Bitcoin, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And I linked that in the description as well. You can see what I was talking about back then. And one of the things we talked about was why the 2021 bull market happened. It's kind of important, right? To think about, well, why did 2021 happen? And does that coincide with what's going on in 2025? Yes, it is. So I'm not going to be one of those people who says, you know what, it's going to be fine, just keep buying, buy the dip, see you tomorrow. There's some similarities. However, not everything lines up. So this is what the problem was in 2021. First of all, the Fed started to pivot. We actually were at zero interest rates because this thing called coronavirus. It was a big thing. Rate increase happened, so they started to raise the rates. They started to do QT, quantitative tightening, in late 2021. We had near zero rates before. Liquidity also dried up. There was no stimmy checks. There was reduced M2 and also reduced global M2 with quantitative tightening. You had leverage unwinds. Remember Luna, 3AC, Celsius, FTX, large liquidations, which just happened also October 10th. It also happened in 2022, which led us to the big bear market. In May, large liquidations, in May and late 2021. Do you remember in April 2021, we hit 64,000 for Bitcoin? And then some reason, we tumbled 50% to 29,000 in 2.5 months. And do you know some of the reasons why? There was liquidations cascading across the different exchanges. What did we just see on October 10th? What did we see yesterday? What do we see today? Leverage unwinds. This is why I have the rules underneath me. I don't know why people don't follow them. I mean, not everybody's gonna do what I say. I'm not their dad. Why would they? But one of them is don't use leverage, or at least don't use leverage of what you can't afford to lose, which I think a lot of people are. I've never seen so much negative sentiment on crypto Twitter, or crypto X, I guess, and my video in my comment section where people are like, I lost everything, I lost it all. I think this is part of the reason. So there is leverage, there is unwinds, and then institutions sold off risk assets. And I said they'll do it again, and they will, and they are. Bitcoin crashed with stocks in 2022. In short, the 2021 bull run ended because global liquidity reversed. That's a caveat. Right now, do you know what the M2 money supply is globally? And you know what the M2 money supply is in the United States? And I know it's cliche to talk about this because people are like, see, liquidity, and it's supposed to go Bitcoin go up. Well, it didn't. It went into stocks and it went into gold. That's pretty much what happened. But back then, the liquidity actually decreased, and that's not what's happening right now. If we take a look at liquidity itself, and this was back in August, I think it's at 103 trillion right now. In 2021, the global liquidity was roughly $85 trillion, maybe 90. No, it wasn't even 90, about 85, 87. We're at 103 trillion right now. And the M2 money supply for the United States is also higher than it was in 2021. But there's a caveat to that. And you know what the caveat is? The government is shut down. It's very tough, even though you may have a ton of money sloshing around, when the US government is like, sorry, we can't pay for anything, because that's just how it goes. There are some emergency situations I understand that are going out, but we're not paying our military. We're not paying for SNAP. We're not paying for other special programs. That's just how it is. And I will say this, shout out to Tommy Crown for putting this comment out. He said, crazy to think that people will go hungry for Thanksgiving this year. I'm gonna do a fundraiser to help feed families. Never done this before. So Tommy, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I will help you with that. And I know people will say, well, you know, some people shouldn't have SNAP and whatever else. Well, I'm not here to debate that. I'm just here to help out. So if I can help out a local community or church, I'm definitely gonna do that. So anyhow, back to this little piece here before I go way off topic. And So 2021, we had the liquidity issue, right? So in short, bull run because global liquidity reversed. The crypto ecosystem was overhyped. That is debatable right now. I don't think anything's too much overhyped. I think we were underhyped, especially for what Bitcoin is and for some of the top altcoins and what they could do. I just saw a consensus or a talk that was being done between JP Morgan and Chainlink at one of their conferences right now today. And I'm like, that's not overhyped. Things are actually working the way it should. Robinhood just picked Arbitrum for all the tokenization of assets, the ETFs that have come through, and they're the most successful ETFs as far as Bitcoin, and BlackRock has rolled that out, and a ton of other things. So as far as overhyped, I don't see that. I think gold hit a little bit of that. I mean, though I own gold and silver, so it was good for me. But overhyped, debatable. Over-leveraged. We are massively over-leveraged. We have too many gamblers in here. And the only way this works is when the gamblers lose and they stop gambling. I hate to say it, but that's just how it is. You have too many people leverage. They get liquidated. It causes a cascade of liquidations, and we all go down. And guess what? If what we just talked about was true with Binance and Wintermute, which I'm not saying it actually is, the house is against you. Why do you keep screwing around? I just don't. It's a madness. So, I mean, good luck to you. And then the last piece is underregulated. And that is actually true, but a little bit debatable. So these are the reasons why in 2021 we had a bear market. Does that translate today? In some ways it does. In other ways, it does not. And I will just say that for the ETF flows, remember when it talked about how institutions, and I said they will sell off? Well, the ETF, before people start saying, Rob, you don't understand ETF, this is just retail. No, it's not. It's not. I did a video on this. I linked in the description. Bitcoin, Ethereum ETF, who is selling and why institutions dump. There are 3 parts to this as far as who gets into the ETFs. There's retail, advisory, and institutional. Retail has taken up a big share of it, but guess what? Institutional moves the markets. So, well, I can't say that. That's on spot, but regardless. You still have institutions buying ETFs through BlackRock, and they are the ones that are getting and discussing things with BlackRock. Retail's not getting advice, but institutional, because they all talk, they probably are getting it from certain advisors. So when I talk about institutions will dump, well, for the Bitcoin ETF flow, the number one, BlackRock, has been dumping 1, 2, 3, 4 days straight. Today's probably a big, massive dump as people are getting as offloading. Does that mean that it's retail and advisory and institutional? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that institutional is part of that whole 3 piece of the puzzle. So we'll see how it goes out. I can't tell you exactly how much institutional is going out. So watch that video. And then also when we talk about regulation, because there wasn't enough clarity for regulation. We have the Clarity Act that is going through. Brian Armstrong just did like a little press conference where he said that it looks like it's going to be passed. Unfortunately, the government is shut down, so we can't even pass the laws that we're having. And even more unfortunate, the government's not going to open up probably until after Thanksgiving, so you're looking at like December 1st. So if you think it's not going to get worse, it probably will. And doesn't that suck to hear? But I have to tell you, these are the things that I see. Will it rebound and go to 120? Sure. But the things that we took a look at in 2021 to today, I see some similarities. But to talk one last thing about how regulatory clarity and we didn't have enough regulation, I just want you to listen to Trump. I know some people you hate him, some people you love him, but just listen to this. The sitting president of the United States said this just a couple of days ago in 60 Minutes. I can't even believe this is actually true. Actually, let me make sure I can trigger everybody. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right, listen to Trump. This is a minute.
Now, China's getting into it very big right now.
Hold on. He says China's getting into it. That's important. All right.
Now, China's getting into it very big right now. If you want to go after people, you're going to kill that industry, and it'll be very bad. Tremendous number of jobs. I campaigned positively on crypto, very openly. I campaigned. Biden campaigned against it. When Biden found out that I was getting like 100% of the crypto vote, which was a lot, he switched totally, and he went in favor of crypto. They went totally in favor. They had many people under indictment. They let them all go. They let them all go. You know that. Many people were under indictment. Biden was a corrupt president. Biden went all in on crypto at the very end because he thought he could get some votes. It didn't work. They voted for me. I want to make crypto great for America. That's the only thing. I don't want to have somebody else have crypto and have China be #1 in the world in crypto. Because in crypto, it's a kind of an industry where basically you're going to have #1 and you're not going to have a #2. And right now we're #1 by a long shot. I want to keep it that way. The same way we're #1 with AI, we're #1 with crypto.
Okay, there's his priorities. And I believe that we can actually pass a bill if we have the government actually open. And for the liquidity issues, we can actually have the money to flow if we have the government open. So at first I was like, hey, I don't really see a difference. Now I'm like, ooh, see a big difference. But that's it for today. So look, I can't really tell you what to do. I'm not a financial advisor. I can only just tell you what I'm doing. And I guess the best thing to do is just to say, to show you what I did today. I bought some more Bitcoin. I'm using these wristbands over on Ben's website. Once it gets to 0.45, I'm going to double up what I'm buying right now. At 0.45, that means a $97,000 price tag. If that happens, my daily DCA doubles. When it goes to 0.4 and below, I quadruple. It's called dynamic DCAing. And this is where I'm going for. And if you don't take any kind of info or takeaways from that, I want you to just to show you that sometimes you don't have to do anything. Sometimes you don't have to do what I do. Sometimes you can just sit on your hands and do nothing. This was from Arkham Intelligence. And it was a person that had bought Bitcoin, 10,000 Bitcoin, 14 years ago. They just sold it either in the last 24 hours. And you see right there where it says USD, and there's a 0 right there? That's because I believe it was under $1. It was like 78 cents. Some people say it's $1.48, some people say it's 72 cents. And you know what he sold it for today? 1.09 billion. And all he had to do was just wait. Now, I'm not telling you to wait for 14 years to do anything. I'm just saying sometimes it's better to do absolutely nothing. That's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing. Everything we talk about is time sensitive. Now this is the best part where I get to ask you a bunch of questions and you answer my questions. And then I'll answer some of yours. We'll go there. All right, everybody, what do we have? Okay. Imam Perret says correctly, Jesus Christ, exactly. Which is why we should be working with the churches to make sure that we can feed those less fortunate than ourselves, right? LAX guy, 75K at worst, I can see that. My price prediction was, and this is a serious price prediction, I always saw it as no lower than 69K. That's because, and why is that? Well, it's because, as we talked about, the price of Bitcoin has never gone below the, not the inauguration day, but on the presidential election day. So it never went below 69Ks because that's the price it was when Donald Trump and his administration won the presidency. We'll see if I'm right. Yeah, Brian's like, I'm a nothing kind of guy. If it wasn't for the fact that Kraken, I just have it set up and it just buys it, I would probably be doing nothing to it, but yeah, let's see what happens. But I got to tell you, I've seen a lot of stressed out people, more so on X than my comment section. I think my comment section is full of people like you who don't do a bunch of leverage trades and probably do like me, bought a lot in the bear market. So we're like, well, let's see what happens. This is interesting. And I don't see like people too many, flipping out. The ones that are the ones that are heavy into alts, and not alts like, Solana. I'm talking about like alts who are like Bing Bang Boom Coin or something like that. And they put their life savings into it. Those are the ones that are freaking out because right now they're trying to figure out, how do I tell my wife that I just lost our mortgage and our child's entire college fund? I don't know what to tell you. Next time, try to follow my rules. It might help you. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose, that type of thing. But seriously, it's concerning to see all these people, how much they've gambled, and they shouldn't have. Happy Wolverine has a point. No politician is your friend. Not Trump, not Biden, not Mark Carney. They are in the same club and thrive on us being divided and hitting each other. I wish, I haven't heard that in a long time. DFs would wake up to that. It's perfect. This guy must be related to me. Yeah, all politicians suck. That should be my next t-shirt. And some do pretty good. I think it was the Speaker of the House, Brian Johnson. They did an expose on him. It's really good about how he gives back. He doesn't take his whole, Speaker of the House doesn't take his whole salary. He actually gives it to his staff and the people around him and to charities. I was like, that's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, they're in the spotlights. Everything that they do wrong, it gets amplified. Crypto Esquire says just a 30% pullback. Yeah. And again, remember, I mean, let's take a look at something. And again, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anybody really does. I saw that Ben did a nice little live stream. I caught the tail end of it. But he was talking about there's a death cross coming up, which sounds awful, but death crosses are good. Actually, once you see a death cross, then you see like a major run up. The golden crosses are the ones you have to watch out for, apparently. Anyhow, remember this, like I was talking about, April 14th, we went from 63,000 in April to 29,000 in July. 3 months, 50% drop. It's quite a bit. Today we haven't done that yet, but the day is young, so who knows? I'm just kidding. What did we do 24 hours? 4.5%. We have done 17% in 30 days, which is quite a bit. Ethereum is down almost 30%. XRP, 25. 32% for Solana. Ouchie. Tron, oh my God. In the top 10, Tron is the one that's held up the best. This is awesome. Who wants to brag about, hey, I only lost 16.5%? Answer, nobody. I do own some Tron. I do think it's going to do quite well, actually. But that's ridiculous. Lone Wolf says we've all seen that chart. I think we have. I think I troll it out, or I sachet it around a little bit too much. That's for sure. Western Union just released a stable coin. The industry is going to be fine. I had heard the story about how Solana paid X amount of millions. I want to say like $30 to $50 million to be exclusive with Western Union. I wonder if they're building it on top of Solana, and that's what it is. Why don't they just use Solana? Yeah, Lovebug says, Rob, I feel Zcash is going to do the same as Astra. It's pumping while markets are down. Yeah, but look at, I mean, Astra was above $2. What is it now? I can't even tell you. I know it's down. It was below $1 not too long ago. Let's see. Ash says, Bitcoin is not a hedge of inflation. It's proven now. Golden property of the safe haven. Not really. I mean, no. Ash has a good point. I like, because gold is usually pretty boring. That's why it's a pretty good hedge, because it pretty much stays the same way. Has slight appreciation. Hopefully it, sometimes it would beat the annual inflation of between whatever it is, 5 to 10%. I always hear different numbers. But yeah, it works out pretty well. Real estate is pretty much why I don't flip out, because like I've been saying before, I had to sell some crypto to get in this really good property. And it worked out great, but properties, it depends on what you're using them for. If you're using them for to live, I mean, you got to live, right? If you're using them for short-term or long-term rentals, it can work out. It just depends on how well you use VRBO and Airbnb, and hopefully you're a super host, and if not, everything collapses because you can't get people in, and it's a saturated market. And then I just saw a great video over on Coin Bureau for commercial real estate and how that is absolutely collapsing. And it could be the next big 2008, 2011 type of recession type of thing. Interesting. So yeah. But as far as like Bitcoin's on a hedge of inflation, I mean, think of it this way. Over a year, has Bitcoin appreciated? Let's take a look. Where am I? All right. So, like if we want to say, and Ash is correct, if we want to go, hey, is this a hedge against inflation over 14 days? I just lost 7%. No, it is not. That's why, like in El Salvador, when they were making everybody like, you got to take Bitcoin. You got to take Bitcoin. And they took it, but a lot of people would actually sell it because that was right in 2021. In 2022, imagine in 1 week going down 7% for the valuation of what you took to feed your family, especially in El Salvador. I mean, come on. 30 days down 17. 1 year, okay, it's up 50%. That's great. And if we take a look at 2 years and 3 years, of course it goes up. But for like short-term store of value, it is not. It's a I believe it's a long-term store of value, as opposed to like, say, gold. Now, people will disagree and say, no, it's a short-term value, short-term store of value, because it's up so much over the year, and that's just how it is. You can't look at 30 days. I get that. But again, somebody takes and buys Bitcoin October 1st. Today they are down how much? 17.5%. That's a little too volatile for some. For others, doesn't matter. But again, third world country, you're trying to do, a hedge against inflation or a hedge against debasement. That's a tough one to swallow. Longer than that, yes, absolutely. Okay. I try to watch Ben, my brain hurts. You should try doing a show with him. No, he's a funny guy. It's just very precise, very smart guy. Everybody loves him. He's great. Him and Ben, can't pick a better duo. Everyone expecting October and a bullish November, but the markets have their own plans that which we have to figure out. Or we just sit back and don't do anything. Just go, I'm gonna go watch football. Or I'm gonna go see who wins the mayoral race in New York City tonight. That'll be interesting. Let's see. A death crosses the gloom of the official death of a market. I think it's not so bad. Digital Danger says, Tommy was talking about a double death cross day, but I was watching Rescue Dog Vid, so I can't remember what it said. I believe DJN has some kids. That's probably why. I was just texting, or Wes from Smart Money Tracking or Smart Money Crypto sent me a message. And he said, hey man, it's looking very similar to the last cycle, almost to the T. And he says, according to the last cycle, we may push 80 to 85K in the next days or week. So I have a question for everybody from what Wes just told me, which was pretty interesting. If we get to Bitcoin 80K November 14th, how many of you would have been like, damn it, I wish I would have sold? And how many of you will be like, this is a great opportunity? Let me know in the comments. I think there's a split between what people think. Me personally, I mean, it'd be great if you could sell some and then pick it up lower, if that does actually happen. But I'm curious to see what people say. And then he did say one more thing. Because he's Smart Money Crypto, right? He says smart money selling like crazy too. Let's see. So there is this thing. Oh, he is right. Called the Smart Money Stablecoin Indicator. And what this is when the big whales, the big people, some institutions, whatever they are, once they sell their crypto, they don't put it into cash. They put it into stable coins because they're going to stay in the market to buy up later. That's their whole plan, right? Buy low and sell high. And you can see that over time, since 2022, the stable coins have gone down, meaning they've put it into or back into the market. They had USDC or Tether or whatever they had, and they bought Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, whatever the heck they bought, right? And it was just going steadily down, 2023. And as far as like February 2024, it was chopping sideways. Everybody's having a good time. But then around here, January 2025, they started to sell again. March, which, when did we have 120K Bitcoin? Wasn't it around this time? Not for sure. So let's take all of April 2025. That's when they were selling a bunch, okay? And action. Well, we'll do this. Let's do this. That's not it. 2025. Let's pick April 13th. What were the prices back then? Oh, look at that. So they were buying when Bitcoin was 83,000. Pretty smart, right? April 20th. They were buying when Bitcoin was 85,000. Pretty smart. April 27th. They were buying when it was 93,000. So if we take a look at this, when they were buying, heaviest was April 2025. And they started to unload a little bit, and they started to buy again in June of 2025. Let's see what those prices were. So June, let's take the 8th. So they were buying Bitcoin at 105. Not so great. June 15th, they were buying Bitcoin at 105. Still pretty good. And June 22nd, they were buying Bitcoin at 100,097, the same price today. Now we come back over here, and what are they doing? As of October 2025, they were selling. And they were putting everything into stables because they sell their crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever. And now look at this. That's quite a jump to go from there to there. So, if anybody's thinking to themselves, maybe smart money's getting out, well, there they are. Use that information as you see fit. All right. What's ICP doing? I think it's up. I think this would be like ICP. Look at that. It's up 18% for 30 days, 74% for 2 weeks. In a day, it's up 38%. That's pretty good. So in 7 days, looking great. In a month, pretty good. 3 months, about the same. 1 year, what was this? $15 to $5. That sucks. And then max, let's not talk about that. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I didn't show it to you. Let me go back so this would look better. In 24 hours, went from $3, 380 to 632. It's pretty good. 7 days, went from 3 to 5. So that's like 65%. In a month, even really good. $4 to $5. In 3 months, roughly the same. Like I said, 1 year it went from $15 down to $5. So hopefully you were buying all this. Actually, not even this. Hopefully you were buying just all this from October 15th to the 30th. Then you'd be up. Or if you want to, and of course I said, let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about that. 2021. Manipulation, bro. All right. And, okay. Show us the whole time it's been alive. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, not everybody bought it back then. Maybe they just got them now. Rizwan says, or Alex, millions are made in the bear. Very true. Rizwan says, Rob, for us, the first cycle peeps, is it even possible at all-time highs from here till end of 2025? It is, but like I said, there's definitely some headwinds against us. One of those is, like I talked about, you know, if the government's going to stay closed, that's a lot of money that's just tied up and won't flow. Even though you have a great money supply happening, it's very difficult to move things around when the government is shut down. That also means that ETFs won't be approved. So that's an issue. Also, for regulatory clarity, that won't get moved through because the government's not in. And I have to ask the question, why are they getting paid? They shouldn't. If the military and the traffic controllers and different people that work for the government don't get paid, why should they get paid? They are failing at their job. Every single one of them failing. So there's that. And let's see, the liquidation events that are happening, that also kind of reminds us of 2021. The saving grace is we're actually cutting rates. Quantitative tightening has ended, but quantitative easing has not started. Ooh, let me show you one more thing, which I should have showed you before, but since you guys hung around, I'll show it to you. This was a good one from Brett _ETH. He always does these really great charts, really smart guy. And this was from August 2019 to April 2021. And this is when quantitative tightening ended to when quantitative easing actually started. So during this time, it was about 8 months. We also had rate cuts. And during that time, this was pre-pandemic, you saw that the price of Bitcoin went down and down and down. And it stabilized and it went up. And unfortunately, the coronavirus, and we just dropped off the face of the planet. So if this is the reality of the difference between quantitative tightening to quantitative easing, and we saw some sideways with a little bit of pumps here and there, we might face the exact same thing. Again, one great thing about 2021, you see right here, these are the federal funds target range. It was 0 from roughly March, April 2020 to past 2022. And then the Fed and Jerome Powell started to raise rates, and that's when Bitcoin started to go down. We also see this as far as Fed's total assets. That same time frame right here, what they were putting on the balance sheet, they weren't really doing too much. And then they were taking things off, which, okay. And then they started to add to their balance sheet by buying things, and it went ballistic until 2022. And then quantitative tightening started again. So, and then of course, here's the M2 money supply in America, which we're hitting all-time highs. And again, global. So there are some similarities, there are some differences. And to say that we can't hit some all-time highs, it can happen. It's just we have a lot of things working against us right now. And I think one of the biggest things are what we just talked about in the very beginning, which again, we can't prove it. We can't say it's true. We can't say that they're manipulating. It's just this is the data that we have. And if that's the point, problems. Unless people stop using leverage, that'd be great. No one seems to want to listen. Everybody thinks they're like the next, I don't know. What's that guy's name from The Big Short? Burry, who just put out like almost $1 billion short on Palantir. Okay, let's see if that works out for him. And USA. Yeah. Last Gambit says, until Clarity Act, wash trading is still legal. Illegal in stocks since 1936. That's right. What does that mean? It means you can sell your crypto and buy it right back, and you can claim those losses on your taxes. Now, LAX, that's the wrong question. It's not when is the Sam Bankman-Fried movie coming out. The question really should be who will play Sam Bankman-Fried. My money is on Jack Black. That'd be the best, I think. Or maybe The Rock, one of those two. That'd be hilarious. Now that would be some range if The Rock could do that. Let's see. Not the face melting. And then Just Trade. Only privacy coins survived all these crashes. True. Check XMR father of privacy coin. I think it's safer than Bitcoin. Then delist them, exchange them, manipulate it. Very true. And Crown Senior says that's tax loss harvesting, not wash trading. Isn't that the same thing? You do the wash trading for tax loss harvesting. Make sure I'm not losing my mind. Yeah. Wash trading is an illegal form of market manipulation in which an investor simultaneously buys and sells the same financial instrument to create a false impression of trading activity. And then, of course, because of that, that would be your tax loss harvesting, as I remember. Am I wrong here? Yeah, tax loss harvesting is just selling your losers for a tax break even. Okay, I think that's it, everybody. Big boy should play SPF. That's a good way to leave it right there. All right, little comedy, little brevity. Everybody, thanks so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. Look, it's going to get volatile, so if this isn't your thing, I mean, there's nothing wrong with selling a little bit. If you want to sell, make yourself a little better, maybe don't watch these videos. I won't be upset. Just do what's best for you. It's going to get choppy, going to get a little crazy, and I think there's going to be some more problems until the government opens back up. But that's it for today. Like today's video, thumbs up, subscribe, all that great stuff. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me for like 45 minutes. I appreciate you. See you in the next one.